My
Oh,
hair,
we're live. All right.
my hair is sitting doing something nice now for a
You
change.
look lovely this morning.
I do.
You
I
was
do. I
ravishing.
always look
Ah.
lovely.
So anyway, today's is it's kind of complicated. Okay. We'll start out with just like is like. Okay. What people don't understand, no one cares about Donald Trump per se. What they care about is fixing a broken problem.
System.
Yeah, a
Maybe.
broken system. All right. Inflation is freaking crazy for one reason and one reason only: these foreign wars. Now, the church, I mean, think about the Ukraine. I mean, this is so ridiculous. They had a peace deal and we said no. Why? Well, because we want to punish Russia. Why? Because they've convinced us that we don't like Russia. I don't care about Russia one way or the other. I don't really care about Israel one way or the other. I think it's amazing that the Democrats are Jew haters. I mean, and they like to call Donald Trump, anti-Semitic. It's farthest from the truth. You guys are the ones that are going out there protesting for rape and murder for the Palestinians. But anyway, that's not my point. It's all connected, but anyway, that's all we want is a better economy. All right. I'm tired of paying $600 a week. And the church helps in this. And let me tell you how the church helps in this. These arrogant people from the pulpit, right? Let's pray for the Ukraine. All right. They're pushing the demo, even though they will swear that they are absolutely not being political from the pulpit. They are.
Yeah.
Yes, every single church service. Oh, let's pray for the Ukraine. They're Christians. No, they're not. Look. Let me tell you something. You got a communist country fighting a socialist country over there.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Two dictators. But anyway, the church supports it by the prayers they say from the pulpit. You go by a lot of church members' houses, right? Especially the elders, all right, and the deacons, and you'll see an American flag flying outside, and you also see a Ukrainian flag showing their support for the democratic powers that be. And that's what has to change, all right? You guys are hypocrites. If you are going to say no politics from the pulpit, then it should be no politics from the pulpit, but you're not. And this is where the weak men come into it, right? My wife, she was doing some studying last night and it blew her mind. It was like, boom, I tell you, I was sitting over there in bed and I saw the top of her head hit the ceiling. She turns around to me and she said, with blood running down her face. And yeah, it was pretty.
Right?
Yeah, is that,
yeah, is that what happened?
Yeah, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Anyway, she turns around. She says, do you mean the elders get paid?
For being elders.
For being elders. I said, well, yeah. And she says, but no, they're supposed to be serving God. You don't get a salary for that.
No, the only one that we're supposed to let me say this, okay? Tithing is the way that churches do it this day is very unbiblical.
Yeah.
Okay?
It is.
Tithing went away with the temple services. We no longer do worship in a temple like they did in the Old Testament or even part of the New Testament, okay? That the last temple of God, the temple where God resided was the temple of Herod, and that one is gone. That whole service thing, the tithing thing, the tent and all that, bring your stuff, that's all gone. It's done. Now, the whole thing where that we were supposed to be taught, okay? We were supposed to be discipled and taught, every single one of us, by somebody to teach us how to read scripture and all that. But here's the thing: tithing is unbiblical because the temple is gone, and the tithing was linked to the temple. Now watch. They'll tell you in the churches the tithing is you gotta do it because then they'll give you those verses where it says God loves a cheerful giver and all of this and that. The sort of contributions that the letters of Paul were asking for were contributions for the people that were spreading the good news of the kingdom, and they were traveling and they couldn't have a job. If your pastor doesn't have a job that supports him, okay, he is unbiblical and he is defying the law of God or Jesus.
Yeah.
He needs the only ones that we are supposed to be supporting really is the missionaries that go to spread the gospel and do that all the time, or the people that are traveling to spread the good news of the gospel and things like that. Your pastor is supposed to have a job. Your elders need to be having a job. We're not supposed to be supporting them and giving them money to support them to sit in at home. And let me tell you, if let's say that your pastor, that you support your pastor, okay, and he is going, his days are spent visiting the queen.
Hold
Okay.
up. Let me know. Hold your thought. Let me. This is in large churches. The mom and pop churches. The real small churches with maybe 100 or 200. No, I don't know it. I don't know for a fact if those elders would draw a salary, but I would expect they get paid for their time. Okay. Now, this may or may not be true, but I know for a fact in all the large churches, the elders and the deacons do get salaries.
And here's the caveat to all of that. If your pastor is a ministering pastor, what does that mean? Okay, if your pastor spends his time visiting you,
A preaching pastor.
a preaching pastor and a ministering pastor. If your pastor spends his time ministering to you, ministering to the congregation, ministering to people left and right, that there are pastors that make the time to go visit people in the hospital. They go visit people at their home. They knock in on your door on a regular basis to see how you're doing. And the same for the elders. That's a little different because they're dedicating their time to the congregation. But if your pastor is a preaching pastor and all he does is preach, you need to really find out what else he's doing with his time. Okay? And, that's it.
But yeah, I mean, it is so. It is just, to me. It blows my mind. These churches are not churches as you think they are churches. This is why I don't understand. All right, the Catholic Church is really, look. Everybody's a hypocrite and all of that. The Catholic Church makes absolutely no pretense about being anything that it's not. All right, it's generational blackmail. All right. If you want to go to heaven and you want to make sure that your relatives have a good time, yeah, you're going to go. My dad. Yep. You're going to go. You're going to give them money. It's a business. It's a very large business. You can see the buildings. You can see the cathedrals. They spend a lot of money. Now, you've got these other mega churches and stuff. They make hundreds of millions of dollars, some of them a year. This is big business.
I saw this. The real David Platt. Okay, if you want to understand what churches do, you should watch that documentary. It's a couple hours, and there was this little church in Washington D.C. Okay, they were they separated from another church. They become non-denominational, and in their charter said, first of all, and if you want to be part of this church, we will not affiliate with any other denomination. Okay, so they grew and grew and grew. Now this particular church is drawing in $35 million a year. Get that around your head. $35 million a year.
Hostile takeover.
So what does they push the pastor that was there out, okay? The pastor, the minister, they push him out.
By vote, mind you.
Yes, and
how do you get votes? You pay for them.
That's right, and they bring in David Platt, okay? And somehow this church that has made it its charter not to affiliate with any denomination, becomes part of the Baptist Convention.
Southern Baptist
Convention. And they're giving them money, okay?
Yep.
And they're being used and all of that. And so there was a whole abuse thing that happened there of the congregation, of the people there and all of that. But here's the thing. That was never meant to be that way. We were never meant to have churches that have $35 million to play with, okay? No. If your church has that kind of surplus of money, they're not using the money for
how many people are they feeding? Ask
Yes.
yourself that. I mean, I've gone to churches that are so cheap they didn't even have a fellowship hall or a coffee pot. But I know they're raking money in.
Yeah,
I knew
a
it for a
lot.
fact because I was a member.
Yeah.
And I got the what do you call it? The not W-2s, but
They have like a statement. Where
yeah, you
they
have a
give you-
statement that tells you where all the money went, what came in, where it goes. You get those periodically.
Well,
But
yeah.
you know, I guess the whole thing here, all right, is everybody needs to grow up. You need to wake up. The world is not what you think it is. The schools are shambles. All right, now the school is a breeding ground for pedophiles and child mutilation, and you can't tell me it's not true because it's a fact. The churches are the same thing. They're going along with the political system. Why? Because it's not a church; it's a business.
Here's the thing. Okay, watch. We live in a town where you cannot go through a street without hitting a church of some sort. Okay.
From my house to the corner down here, I believe there's 4 or 5 churches.
3, probably 4, maybe.
Yeah, 4
Not
churches.
5, but
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
watch. Well,
Yeah.
in our street.
Yeah, on our street. Yeah.
Yeah, watch. These are buildings that sit empty 6 days a week, or let's say 5, if you have a midweek, whatever. 5 days a week, they sit empty while people around them are unable to pay their rent,
Yes.
are unable to feed their family, are unable to do anything health-wise for each other. We only take care of each other, you know.
Look, I've seen it with my own eyes. There was that woman that came to the church for help. All right, you know what our church did to help her? The pastor drove her to a food bank, and the food bank gave her expired food. And then it was expired food, so she threw it away. And the people in our church were like, well, you can't be that hungry if you don't want to eat expired food.
Isn't that crazy?
Isn't that crazy? She came to a church for help.
And we did turn it
right.
away. Well, at any rate, what I was getting at is you have all those empty buildings, okay, that do nothing throughout the week. If you really want it to be biblical, okay, the temple of Herod and the temple of Solomon were open 24/7, 7 days a week. And they were doing the sacrifices every day. They were doing accepting the tithing from the people. They were moving every single day. Okay, if you want to be biblical, your church needs to be open 24/7, 7 days a week, doing something with the money that you're giving, not hoarding it and doing nothing with it. But it's just.
Anyway.
It got me yesterday. I was like, no, this is not what Jesus Christ intended for his church.
It was not, yeah. And it's like, you have to understand, all right? It's like, for some unknown reason, they should give awards for this. Lying to people has become the normal. People are absolutely convinced they're passionate about things that don't matter. Because you have a news media or a pastor telling you it matters. It doesn't. No. It really, in the big scheme of things. And you have people that argue about things that don't matter. My favorite one is I'm heavily involved in the gun community, okay? And should you carry on a loaded chamber? Should you carry on an unloaded chamber? You can argue this point till the cows come home. And it gets dangerous now because you have the younger generation. They think they know everything. Yeah, I've been carrying for decades. There's no right answer to this. Sometimes I carry with a loaded chamber. Depends on the firearm I'm carrying, right? Sometimes I carry on an empty chamber, right? There's no right answer. It's whatever you're comfortable with. Now, when it comes to news, here's your whole problem, okay? Most people get their news from one source. All right. For some unknown reason, it's like either in the news or in the church, people have forgotten how to look things up. When your pastor tells you something, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to go home and that's why they give you the chapters and the verses. You're supposed to write it down, go home and read it, and then discuss it. If you feel he's wrong, you should contact him. Now, you have that option in the church. It doesn't matter because it's a business and they will not listen to you. But if you only get your news from the mainstream media, when you sit down and start talking to someone who gets their news from multiple sources, you think they're nut jobs. That can't be happening. I've never heard of that. Yeah. Washington is filled with pedophiles. Hollywood is filled with pedophiles. Pedophiles endorse pedophiles. This is the nastiest that this country has ever been. This is genuine Sodom and Gomorrah stuff here.
Yeah.
And people just don't want to know about it. But ask yourself, why has no one been charged for Epstein Island except Epstein, who supposedly killed himself and whatever that lady's name is, right? Ghislaine Maxwell or whatever. When you have photographs of editors and sitting there half naked with her on a bench, and she's the same editor, by the way, that invented the Trump's the Nazi story, right? It's like, no, you've got to look. The book is there. The book is true, okay? If Jesus says one thing, right, that's it. That's the truth of the matter, okay? Now, when it gets to Paul, these were letters written in response to things, so it can get refusing. But your gold stamp has to be going back to Jesus. Why? Because that's the truth of the matter. Yeah. Now, there is no gold stamp in politics if you're unwilling to look at both sides of the story and use your head. Why is the economy so bad? It's simple. We're sending trillions of dollars to the Ukraine, all right? And we're buying gasoline from overseas. Therefore, what happens is it costs more money to ship things, right? Yeah. So therefore, the price goes up. You keep raising minimum wage, so therefore, the prices of things goes up. And it's like no one's got common sense. How about we just get out and stop financing a war between a communist and a Nazi country? It doesn't concern us. Nothing there matters to us. When is the last time you picked up anything here in the United States that says the church made this or the Ukraine made this? You don't.
We do nothing. But look, if you want to really understand Paul, they have these Bibles now where you can download them without no chapter divisions and no verse divisions.
Right.
And you'll understand a little better. The problem that we have, one of the biggest problems we have understanding Paul is that we have chapter and verse divisions that put in breaks where were never meant to be.
Yeah.
And so,
and they number certain. Well, they number all of them, right? So that is so these guys who have a different book can bring, this and this and this and this because this sounds like that doesn't mean that's true. All right. And always ask yourself, look, this church, you guys have been in business for 2,000 years. Why is it I can pick up a book, all right, and I can prove you wrong on so many things that you're teaching? Same thing with politics. You've been there for all this time. Why haven't you fixed this?
The problem is that we to have a tendency to believe those that have a microphone.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a bad tendency to believe those that have a large following. Like I pick on Mike Winger here and there, but he's
pretty cool.
He's cool, and that's not the problem. The problem is he's incorrect about some things because he has no idea of his personal eschatology or what the end and all that. But here's the thing. I don't believe he ever intended. I've watched tons of his videos, and I don't think his intention was ever to say, you need to listen and do and believe what I believe. Rather, he presents to you the way that he does his work, his research, and you're meant to double check on that.
Yes.
Okay, but now it's gotten to the point that people are so lazy when it comes to information altogether that you'd rather take the word of someone else than do the research yourself. It applies in politics, it applies to the news, and it applies to the church.
I don't care which side of either story. If you want to believe what the church is preaching, absolutely fine. But you
Okay.
should be able to sit down and defend your position without this chapter and verse nonsense,
Yeah.
okay? You should be able to say what you feel. In other words, you should understand the problem of it. Come to your own conclusions. That's what God intended us to do when He gave us the Bible. And the same thing with politics. Stop listening to the catchphrases and, for God's sakes, at least understand what the problem is. Because I guarantee you, what the problem they're telling you is and feeding it to you 24/7 is not true. You would have to be, look, all right, you have to be a special needs student, okay? You really do, to believe that Donald Trump is a Nazi, okay? You really have to be a special kind of, well, I don't want to get, yeah, well, you know what I mean. Yeah, bless your heart, okay? Because you have no proof of anything. You've just been told that. Now, I'll tell you right now, when someone says, and I know, it's just, I know your reaction. It's if I ask you, okay, give me one thing that this guy did, right, that you would consider being a Nazi or racist, or, right? You know what? Now your next move is anger because you haven't even Googled it, all right? But you've been told this, and now you know you're stupid. So you're going to fight even harder to keep from being stupid, all right? I mean, it's just like in the church, it's chapter and verse. We've literally had an elder in the church say, well, we made our point. We told him where we came up with it. And he literally looked at my wife and he goes, well, you're wrong. I don't know how you're wrong, but you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So he couldn't even defend his own church's message. And I've seen this time and time and time again in the church. I will ask them a simple question and they just get, and then when they can't explain it, they say, well, it's our church policy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I had this one lady leading the class for women one time, and we were getting really hot and heavy into this conversation about predestination and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And one of her things was like, well, when I have a question, she's married to the pastor,
Oh, yeah.
and he had a PhD, right? And what she said was, uh, when I have a question, I ask my PhD, right? Saying,
I'm a woman and I shouldn't think of these things.
so
yeah.
to me, that just automatically said, you haven't really thought about all of this. And that is not how it should be, friends. It should be, every person that wrestles with the issues themselves, and then you discuss it and see where if you come out on the same side. But don't parcel out your own studies, okay? And don't be lazy about it.
But if you really want to know where your church stands, follow the money trail. And I'm not talking the money trail inside your church, because your money doesn't stay inside the church. It goes to, it goes to the SBC, right? The Southern Baptists. Now you find their money trail and see where they're putting money. Because I guarantee you, even though they say we're not political, I guarantee you they're making contributions.
Here's a detail, right? So, accounting 101 crash course, real quick. When I present to you a profit and loss statement, now your church will have something similar. It'll have everything that came in and all the expenses, and you'll have a line item for all the contributions, and then one line item for all the expenses. So it'll say like advertising, wages, yada 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 yada. That they present that to you, that is not sufficient information for you.
No.
You need a detailed breakdown of every single thing and who that money went to.
Yes.
If you ask for that in your church and they say, well, yada yada yada, and then they give you the runaround on that, your money is not being spent properly. A church, because
should be accountable.
A church that is accountable and is doing everything they can to use your money properly will have that at the fingertip. Here you go. Let me print it out. Here you go. As an accounting person, I can tell you that is one of the easiest reports to print out. Okay. Yes. So if they give you the runaround, that means you got big problems
Okay.
in your church.
Yeah, it's funny though. I mean, it's like you look at the church right now, and there's panic in the churches, okay? Because this walk away movement here, right? This waking up. This is a phenomenon that I've never thought I would see. And you see the anger coming from the left. And the reason there's so much anger coming from them is they're in full panic mode. Wait, people are waking up. They're understanding that we're villains. So's the left. Look, man, Washington is a uniparty. You got the far left of the uniparty, the far right of the uniparty, and everybody plays this stupid game. Same thing with the church. All right. It's people are waking up. They're walking away from the church because the message has gotten corrupted. All right. And people are looking at the politics and like Trump. No one really, I don't particularly care for Trump. I like the message that Trump. I'm hoping for a change. I'm hoping we can save this country. All right. That's what I'm hoping for. We cannot keep feeding all these people that are coming across the border. That does not concern us. It's causing hardships on my family. I didn't vote to pay for this. $600 a week in groceries to feed my family. I know I have a large family. This is absurd. Trillions of dollars, trillions, going to the Ukraine, going to Israel. This is none of our concern. All right. You know what's our concern? American citizens.
Was this YouTube
And the church, I mean, look, where's all that money going for? It's not going to feed the poor. It's not going to your own parishioners. Heck no.
I saw this one YouTube clip, not short, but thumbnail this morning, right? And the thumbnail said the title of the video was "Who gets Christ? Who gets Jesus Christ right? The Muslim or the Christians?" And I am going to tell you, after being in churches and listening to sermons, probably I'm telling you, I have listened to thousands probably of hours by now of sermons and things like that. The Christians don't have him right either. Not
No.
these Christians, not the Christians in this country. I don't know about anybody else in another country. I don't know about that.
Look,
But these Christians in this country, in this generation, don't have
let's
him
go
right.
back to that Mike Winger for a second, right?
Okay.
Now, he doesn't do this for free. Think about it. All
Oh,
right?
no, he gets paid.
Yeah, he gets paid. And every view online, I don't know how much money he makes. I'm not going to pretend to. But have you ever heard Mike Winger get on there and talk about supporting a charity? Have you ever got on there and heard Mike Winger talk about doing charitable work in the name of God anywhere? Maybe I'm wrong on this. If I am, I truly, truly apologize. But I know when my wife listens to Mike Winger, she listens to him a lot. Have you ever heard this? Because I have not.
No, I have heard him promote things like the maternity centers. He does his, he's done talks about women, abuse of women by their husbands and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I'm,
Does
I
he
don't
put
think
any
so.
personal money into
Not
it?
that I know.
Yeah,
He
I mean,
doesn't
and
share that
there's
with
your
us.
thing. Ask your church. It was like the very first church here in Texas me and my wife went to. I told my wife, I said, ask her if they've ever done any charitable work, because doing charitable work was the major reason I agreed to go back to church. Okay. Because I have a small farm and I donate food, and anyway, none of that matters. But that was a huge thing for me. I really wanted to get involved in a church that helped people, right? And yeah, her answer shocked me. What was it?
We went and gave Bibles one time.
One time they gave out Bibles.
We're supposed to be out there preaching the word.
All right.
Yeah.
And so you ask yourself, man, is this your idea of a church? Is this your idea of a government? Because no, and look, we had a coup. I'm telling you right now, I don't care what you think about that Trump fella, but at least he was elected by his constituents. He won a primary election. Kamala Harris was appointed by the party. It was a coup d'etat. All right. And look, this whole thing, why was there not an Article 25 if Joe Biden is incompetent? Ask yourself that, right? Now you have Christians out there saying they want to get away with the 19th Amendment, Shut up. Stop being a girly man, being afraid of your woman, for one thing. Oh, yeah. Kamala Harris's gay commercial. Oh, I love that. Those men in that commercial were pathetic.
Yeah, they're
Oh.
your pastor now. I've seen this one pastor. He's talking about women shouldn't have the right to vote.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He's a nightmare.
The man in your family needs to decide for the entire family who they're going to vote for, and it's a family vote.
Oh, man.
Ladies, if you are going to a church that thinks that that should be it, or if you yourself believe that women shouldn't have the right to vote, be really, really careful. It is the first step towards turning this country, what is supposed to be a Christian country, into a Muslim-like culture.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. And look, if you ever get into a political argument with me, all right, I'm going to ask you the same thing without a catchphrase. Don't use catchphrases. Explain your position. Why do you believe this? And if you give me, I feel, or start with catchphrases, look, I'm just going to think you're God's special gift, okay? And you need to be protected. And I know that angers people. But the fact of the matter is, especially nowadays with women, and they have convinced you this abortion thing is just, well, how many abortions are you planning on having? Just ask yourself that, right? And let me tell you something. Both sides now are baby killers. This election is about one thing and one thing only: cleaning the swamp out and fixing the economy. All right, that's it. Because both sides are pro-baby killing now.
Yeah.
And I am not. All right. I believe that's a huge mistake, but that's just me.
Whatever you do, get out there and vote, friends.
Yes.
We need to know who's who in the soup.
We do. Yeah.
And put it on Twitter so that we can figure out who we're going to send the bill.
Yeah. Put a sign in your yard so I can write your address down so I know where to send you my grocery bill and my gas bill. Right? Because it's unfair of you to vote the way you vote because you feel something or you've been misled and expect the rest of the country to pay for it. That's really the whole issue here in this election. But anyway, we've ranted for a half an hour. But hey, God bless everybody.
God bless.
And hey, wake up and be able to explain it. But here's something I'm going to tell you that I've noticed, okay? This is crazy, okay? The left is so brainwashed anymore, okay, that if you give them a fact, you look it up on Wikipedia or on Google, and you show them a fact. If they don't agree with that fact, it doesn't exist. It's not real. It's made up. All right? So you can't even get in an argument with these people. It's like arguing with a 10-year-old. All right? I feel, therefore it is. That fact, if I don't agree with it, it's not real. I mean, that's weird, okay? But anyway, God bless everybody.
God bless. Bye-bye.
End stream, correct? Ah, there we go. And end over here? Yeah. All right.